What it do? What it do? 1, 2. 1, 2. Get my sound right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a long-awaited book talk from Chubboy. Whew, this is a big one, though. This is a big one. Not only because of the content, but also the current events that have happened in the, say, past 3 months. Pretty weird thing going on. I'm overhyping it. Let's just get to it. So let me grab the books. Oh yeah, this is a double fucking book episode. Yo! Bow, bow, bow! First one. Winners Take All. The elite charade of changing the world. What? Next, for double bonus book talk. Bullshit Jobs. Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber. And this author is Anand Giridharadas. I should have looked the name up before I started filming, but sorry, Anand. I follow you on Twitter. Good stuff. Love it. The book's great. Okay. So why do these two books intertwine? Where do I start? I think the reason that and let's do a disclaimer before I get on this rant. Number one, I am no politician or claimer of knowledge of politics. These are simply opinions and ideas that I've formulated with content that I've intake, and I've connected some ideas. And then secondly, disclaimer, some things just shouldn't be connected. I heard that quote a few weeks ago or something like that. And sometimes we have a good way of connecting two things that really just don't need to be connected, but we found that one little connector. I guess some could argue that, well, then there's the connection, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm just going to spit my ideas out, kind of tell you about why and how I got to that concept, and why this is a big episode, because I think it's the first time I've ever filmed something that is relative to current events. This is April 23rd, 2019, and we'll get into it. So first, let me just go into Winners Take All book right here. Basically, this book is pointing to an elitist sort of society. I don't know if the book uses that vernacular, but I like to call it a society. And what's been happening is a charade, as the title says, the elite charade of changing the world. So you can kind of break that down. The elitist society charade of changing the world. Elite charade changing world is the ones that are highlighted there. And this is exactly what that book talks on. And it talks on the concept of we have people amassing exponential amounts of wealth through entrepreneurism and the blessings that the internet and the online world has given us, such as this ability to communicate in this type of form, free form, no script, stuff like that. And I don't want to, you know what, fuck it, who cares? It points to people like the Ubers, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Airbnbs, the let's see who else is in it. Amazon, Bezos, obviously. A little bit of the Gates stuff, Bill and Melinda Gates. But nonetheless, those are the type of people we're talking about, and those are the type of organizations that we are talking about when this book is talking about elitists, as well as just those type of organizations that allowed people to amass great wealth. So you can kind of think of a long number of them, but nonetheless, this book talks about how and why it's all a facade, essentially. And without going into too much details on the book itself, just because the book I mean, you just got to dive into it, rich in content, rich in facts and stuff like that. Number one, we see this issue with Facebook, Uber, Twitter, these CEOs being asked to make appearances in front of the government, essentially, because they are now at the pinnacle of deciding how society should be shaped, because their tools, their systems, their companies are so overarching and like world changing, if you will. And so that just kind of puts them in another realm as far as humans and people that have traditionally been successful in society. I mean, of course, Ford was he changed the world. I'm sure he had some good stuff, but as far as like, I don't know to what extent he was able to sit in front of the government and kind of be the reason why things were changing. I mean, maybe he was. I don't know. Either way, regardless, I'm just trying to save my ass on that comment. Nonetheless, he breaks it down and uses great examples and facts and stuff like that as far as to how there's a facade, a charade, the verbiage from the book, that these people are talking about donating tons of money, changing the world, doing this for the better, doing this, that, what have you. All these conferences that they go to that are in the most exotic places in the world, stuff like that. Basically, it's all just kind of compartmentalized, if you will. It's let's talk about it, let's think that we're doing it, but let's know at the bottom of our hearts that like what we are doing is like creating a disadvantage for a lot of people. And like, that's so silly to me, because I've always grown up in the concept of poverty and stuff like that. Like, I've thought, well, wouldn't you just be able to go in and say, what do you guys need to make this thing turn around? And then the community says their needs, and then these quote unquote charities and stuff, that money should just go straight to those needs, those specific needs for the specific people. But what's happening, and he points this into the book, is it's kind of just, I'm donating to this charity for the sake of saying I'm donating to this charity, not really actually having like immediate impact or effective impact, if you will, on whatever they might be saying they're doing their charitable goods to. And I'm sure these people are good people, or you'd like to think, but this is just what the book talks about. I've done a terrible job at explaining it. You'll just have to read it, because it's a pretty thick book, a lot to consume, a lot of names that just come out, and you're just kind of surprised, or you've never looked at the world and the systems that these people have put in place for us in this light, and how it's kind of affected us in a different manner than just positive, because a lot of the positive is kind of just the clickbait to keep things going, right? And so the book's really, really important, though, because, and this can kind of maybe explain more to what the book talks about and exposes, is two things happened when I was reading this book, or when I just finished it. Number one, the Davos, I believe that's how it's pronounced, the Davos kind of convention. It's a big convention for all these elitists, these people who float. You know, they float out, and I don't know why I use the word float. Sorry, I'm trying to get my notes, but these elitists, these big names, these people who know a lot of things and know a lot of people and do a lot of things for the world at this joint. And a gentleman by the name of Rutger Bregman. What a fucking name, yo! What a fucking name, Rutger. Hey, Rutger, how are you? So this dude was just a historian. He wrote a book called The Utopia, or his book is just called Utopia for Realists. And it's built around an argument for universal basic income, open borders, and a 15-hour work week. So that's just who he is. I think that book is what put him in that Davos environment, and he had some crazy things to say about it. He had some things to say, like it's just there's a common thing that needed to be talked about, yet no one was talking about it, and some stuff that I kind of wrote down from the incident, and what he said. Davos is no place for fighting. It is where chief executives fly into in private jets to discuss the dire consequences of climate change, where hot money speculators deliver homilies on responsible investing, and the world's media receive every falling cliche with unctuous warmth. And that might have been a quote from the actual Winners Take All book. My notes are kind of shitty, but... And so that's kind of what he gets at in that book, is there's these people who take their private jets that cost them billions of dollars to go to this exotic island and talk about climate change, talk about poverty, talk about inequality, talk about XYZ, you know, but it doesn't get done. And that's what this Rutger dude came in and did, and just blew up the fucking world. So a quote from him is, "It feels like I'm at a fighter fighters conference and no one is allowed to speak about water, right? Just stop talking about philanthropy and start talking about taxes. We can invite Bono once more, but we've got to be talking about taxes. That's it. Taxes, taxes, taxes. All the rest is bullshit, in my opinion." And so that right there, it just kind of shows you the truth of what's been happening as people have been altering the world due to technology and just sheer innovation that we've never seen at such a fast pace ever before. It's so easy to look into the future and think about autonomous driving vehicles all over the road, but it could be a decade out, who knows? But everything comes so quickly nowadays that it's like, I mean, shit, maybe 2 years from now, 80% of the cars in America are going to be, autonomous. So, it's crazy stuff. The Winners Take All book is, genuinely a eye-opening book to kind of how important money is in the game of politics right now. And it's because of things like, the Davos thing, where people who have a lot of influence and a lot of pull with a lot of money say the right things on the surface, yet nothing's ever getting done. And a younger generation can attest to that. We view as government as something that does not work. Like, we literally grew up watching the government not necessarily work. And as you learn more and more about it, there's so many broken pieces of the system that it's no surprise as to why this book is a thing and how it is a thing. And so not only does that Davos exchange with Rutger Bregman, the historian, really alter my perception and the concept of how this world and these people who are supposed to be doing the good are probably being a little lazier than what most of us would like. And that might not be a surprise to some of you. But nonetheless, another good example that points to this book that currently happens is the scandal of the rich folk paying $500,000 for their kids to go to certain schools. That scandal broke out just a couple of weeks after I had finished this book, and it's just another reason. And if you follow this author online, he will point out everything and anything on Twitter. He's on top of everything, looking for any possible realm to expose what is happening, which is basically a group of elitists are telling us that they are taking care of philanthropy, they're taking care of the climate change, the XYZs, but in reality, it's not happening. And that just goes back to everyone ultimately is self-interest first. We're all assholes, so just remember that. And then now this leads me into the double bonus book. Boom, 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 boom. The Bullshit Jobs. Damn, I should have just went straight into Winners Take All that introduced this one. It would have been tight. Nonetheless, Bullshit Jobs. So this book, anyone who knows me knows I'm not happy about 9-to-5 corporate America. I've watched my parents both did everything in their willpower to work those jobs, provide for me and my siblings, and give us a life of comfort and coziness, and I'm forever grateful for that. But the thing that this book really puts into my vocabulary, because I knew that the spite I had for this kind of way of life and way of working was real and accurate, but I just couldn't put enough words on it to really point people into the direction that my internal self was feeling or seeing. And this is the book to do it for you. So, yeah, sorry about that wacky ass computer. By David Graeber, once again, Bullshit Jobs, really just breaks down the concept of, he did some surveys. You can talk about how accurate or inaccurate they are or not. I don't know. It's a credible book, I believe, but he did some surveys and just kind of created a movement and got a lot of feedback from a lot of people around the world with a lot of different jobs. And basically he kind of goes through what those results came to, and how that affects us and like what the world is. But starting with, how do these two books tie into each other? The reason that these people who are elitists and so forth have this power and this kind of the mantra of they are changing the world is because they employ thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Their companies employ 50,000 plus people in the world or country, what have you. Like, that is so fucking absurd. And so what the Bullshit Jobs does to complement the Winners Take All so well is it points out to like what is really happening with the people of the world compared to the elitists. And the elitists are preaching all these technological innovations, this changing the world, changing the way we climate change, like all that, all the good shit that sprinkle me, man, sprinkle me. Shout out Raj. Like the stuff that they just want to sprinkle, that like we want to hear as people, they sprinkle it on us and we just take it. But then the Bullshit Jobs book is the perspective of us lowly people looking up, and it's horrid. One of the best things I pulled from it is social violence. A lot of these jobs are social violence on a human being. Intentional or not, doesn't matter. What we've created in our society is social violence, because all of a sudden your value and your worth is determined by what you work, how you work, and where you work. And what you work, I mean by what is your title. So what's your title, where you work, and how hard you work is now the most important thing about our society. And what's happened is there's companies, there's organizations, the mainstream of jobs, the people, and the book talks to this, the people who get paid the most are doing the most pointless bullshit jobs in the entire world. Because what is happening is the machine, the factories, that is transformed into the corporate realm. The corporate realm is now the Industrial Revolution. It is all about hitting a certain growth point and then optimizing daily. And as long as you get people to fill those slots daily, the wheel keeps pumping. The wheel keeps turning. One organization, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, ADP for my human resources people, the payroll department, fucking, I don't even know, Wells Fargo, fucking, all the national brands, man, all of them employ thousands of people, and those people go in each day, sit in their desk 8 hours, and just keep the wheel turning. Boom, boom, boom. And it's social violence, because 95% of the people in that environment don't want to be there, or they've been there for too long, but they can't move out because they've got so many bills, and they've created a life of bills that fits their lifestyle because they were irresponsible. But nonetheless, you're sitting there and you can't quit. You can't quit because you have to pay the bills. You have a family, XYZ, name it. But they sit there 8 hours a day, required to be there. And you're numb. You're numb. You know that what you do is so irrelevant. You had, as a kid, you knew you wanted to do something with your life. You knew you wanted to change something. You wanted to be something. You wanted to do something. And now you're sitting here in an office, passing paperwork from your desk to the next, from your computer to the next, transferring documentations, because what it requires for this company to run is that there's a person at each little step. And each little step goes up to the revenue ball, and the revenue ball hits, and then it rolls, and it rolls. And where does that revenue go? It goes back into the company. It goes back into the company. And then where does that other money go? It goes to the top dogs. The top dogs are making it. And what happens to the people who are here for 3, 4, 5 years? They stay. And they maybe get a couple thousand here and there, but nothing. They learn to live within the means of what they are doing. And there's no concept of upward progression. There's no concept of purpose. And this isn't everyone. This isn't the entire corporate America. This is just statistically quite a bit of people. I think the book might be over a third of the population, but I could be wrong. That could be just some made up numbers, but it's that's the biggest pull from that book is social violence, because we've altered our society to, again, perceive that the more you work and your title in that work is more important than who you are in life and what you do as just a human. You know, how much love do you express? How much good do you do for the people around you so that they can do good for the people around them? That's the value. That's the real value. But we live in a world where it sucks. It's brutal. And I'm kind of reminiscing as I'm speaking about this because I'm in a job right now that I'm in an office, and it could be worse, but it's brutal, man. You can't, you go in and 8 hours, here we go, hit the grindstone. But it is what it is. It's so first and foremost social violence. Secondly, it talks about, and what's really mind-blowing is the book kind of talks about how in like the early 1900s, they were already talking about automation taking people out of the workforce. Like, it was already a theory, a concept, as soon as the machines and the concept of factories and all that type of stuff, like, it was predicted way back then. So we've known it's coming. The people who've been paying attention and are the people who move that part of the world forward, right? You have to study, as a person who studies history in that situation, you have to know that that's what's been predicted, is autonomous taking away all jobs, most of the jobs for people. And what's crazy, and what the book points out, is we have been replaced by autonomous vehicles. Not vehicles, but just autonomous processes, everything running on AI, people not really needing people to do certain things that naturally you would. But what's happened is we've created these bullshit jobs, and that's why so many of the people in that space work these jobs where they go in and they fill out paperwork all day, or they sign like 2 to 3 things a day, or they take 4 calls in a day, and like they sit there. They're just required to sit there. No one asks, no one cares, and it just happens. But like, that's where that's where the what am I looking for? Like, the displaced jobs went, right? Like, the people who were talked about in the early 1900s, we're not going to need this many workers in a factory soon. Like, it's going to be replaced by like working robots and stuff and mechanisms. Don't tell them that. We'll just put them here. We'll just have them do paperwork. We need these paperwork filled shit like that. Like, it's basically, that's kind of what happened if you had a conversation about it, right? Like, this is going to happen, and here we are. What are we, 100 years later? And it's like, it's here. But we're and the book talks a little bit about how, like, we're just so afraid about an unemployment number and percentage, and like that's why we've sacrificed not cutting these jobs back and stuff, because of, for the sake of, well, this amount of people are employed, but it's causing a lot greater issues. So this, I mean, the two concepts are maybe a stretch, but the winners take all in the bullshit jobs. I feel the connection is, there's people who are affecting the way this world works because they have so much power, but the people who are the true people, which is the masses, are so fucked with the jobs that these large rich individuals own, because it's their companies, it's their businesses, it's their investors, whatever, what have you. There's the connection and the disconnect all in one, because the disconnect is we're so, as a people, like, I feel like we're just so consumed with like getting by because we're miserable. A lot of us are miserable right now, and it's because a lot of people are working bullshit jobs. Our creativity has been drowned out by sloppy TV shows and shitty fucking movies. And you gotta really dig for the true art nowadays, it seems like. But nonetheless, the connection is there's everyone in all the characters in those books all have a hand in each other. We're all in the same bowl, right? But the disconnect is they're affecting the progression of the world, and we are struggling to slow it down, to keep up, what have you, whatever you're trying to do, because we're slaving away. We're selling 40 hours of our time each week. That's Monday through Friday. That gives you 4 or 5 hours of sunlight, and then the weekends. But you usually spend your time during the week filling up the weekend, because you're getting so excited that when you hit the weekend, you drain yourself, and then you come back to work, and now you're all fucking, and it's just a cycle. It's vicious. And so, yeah, and it's all crazy because all the events happened at once. The Rutger Bregman, who spoke out about it, and I don't want to get political, but his approach was like taxes. We need to talk about taxes, taxing the rich. It's historically worked. I don't study it. This is what the dude said. I trust his opinion, kind of, until I'm told otherwise. But the book is about 15-hour work weeks and universal basic income and stuff like that, which is every Democratic president campaigning right now is pitching universal basic income, some sort of social monetary system, if you will, in my naive outlook on that stuff. But nonetheless, I keep saying that shit. I don't like that word. I don't even know where I'm at now. I don't know. They're connected, connected but disconnected. Nah. In conclusion, ultimately though, we are headed for some sort of break in the system, if you will. Now this is me just going on a rant, because something's got to give. The two books are polar opposites, pulling against each other like that magnetic force. You got a book about the people who are working their lives away for nothing, and then at the same time there's a revolution amongst the people happening of spirituality, psychedelics. What is life? Life is meant, everything, there's an awakening happening within the people due to spiritual movement, mindful movement, psychedelic movement, what have you. But then the other book, the Winners Take All book, represents the elites who want the world to themselves. They want the bubble. They want that bubble kept, and they'll say the headlines they need to say to keep that bubble from popping. But what's going on is these two movements, they're going to collide. They're going to collide, absolutely, because we're not going to continue to allow this to happen. As far as there's so much money in the world, money's not even real at that. It's another construct of the society that we live in that agreeably has created a system, yes, but it's absurd. You can point back to the housing crisis in '08. The banks got bailed out of tons and tons and tons and tons of debt, and how we said it. They just said, "You're good, Jeff. Thanks, man. Yeah, you take care, huh? Hey, it was a hell of a ride, huh?" Yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. Maybe in another decade. Maybe student loans. There it is. But no, I mean, so like we could do so much for the people in the country, in the world, if people just decided to, is really what it comes down to. Yes, there's so many moving parts, but there's so many moving parts to Davos, the conference that all these people come to, and their private jets on this exotic island. Like, you know how many moving parts go into that compared to moving parts to let a community do what they want with their community, give them the means to fucking build this, build that. Here's what the science says about environment and what we need to do with it to create this space to create a better school. Like come on now. Life is one big game. We're humans. We're playing a large game, and the game's getting a little twisted. The game's getting a little twisted and gross, and it's a select few of people, the top 1%. But the masses, man, the people, man, the people are uprising. It's gonna be tight. I'm excited to be my age. I'm excited to be where I am. I'm excited for the people that I know to watch us lift up, take a hand, take a step. And I think it's because the internet, the online world raised us. A lot of people like me and younger are navigating a decade where no other kids in this world ever experienced. So we have a different way of seeing things. We have a different way of being. We have a different way of feeling, seeing, hearing, listening, all of it. We're different, and it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight. The people are gonna come out, and you're already seeing it. So many movements are happening. Politics are in an uproar. It's chaos, but through chaos comes, I think that's a Joe Rogan, but I mean, it's if anyone knows anything about what success is, or what happiness is just bettering yourself each and every day. And what we're seeing is just an environment where negative stuff gets the headlines. So it's just it feels chaotic and it feels tense, but it's good. We're breaking walls. We're breaking barriers. This rant's gone well too long. Can't tell you why, but it has. Thanks for listening. Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber, and Winners Take All of the Elite Charade of Changing the World by Anand, Giridharadas, Giridharadas. Look them up, follow them, get their content, get their books, what have you. If this sparks any interest to you, share it with me, talk with me. Love expressing ideas. Looking to really push this book talk as far as I can, as far as taking things and pushing them to the edge and seeing what we can come up with them. My future plans is to get authors, just get people on, people who are intelligent and know what they're talking about and have credible paths, stuff like that. But yeah, that's the future. Thanks for listening. Check out the books. The authors are dope. And read books. Feed the fucking mind. If you don't use it, you lose it. Capiche? Capiche.